So my name is Ashley Guardado, and I am the Program Associate with the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network. So I currently live in half my time in Queens, New York, and then I live the other half in Center Reach, a suburb in Suffolk County. Critical part of my story, though, is that I was born and raised in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is a smaller urban city just outside of Philadelphia. And that's where my mom and my stepdad and my little sister and lots of my extended family still live today. So I'm often still over there visiting as well. It's a little bit interesting in that I can look at my own life like through all these different perspectives, because the demographics of each of those places is very, very different from each other. And since I was a teenager, at least, I've been comparing at least Long Island and Chester to each other, because the demographics are very different, and the way that the racial disparities affect Chester versus how they affect Long Island is very overwhelming. And the way that they experience the threat and the amplifier that is climate change is also very different. So it's been a deep learning experience for me to be a part of all these different geographic locations. Because the changes that I see are not just weather. We don't have very many animals in a large, visible, natural ecosystem that we see in Chester. Because Chester, like I said, it's a smaller city, and it's very urban. It's also very low income, and it's majority Black and brown folks. And it's surrounded by mostly white, more affluent neighborhoods just outside of it. But what makes this a case of environmental racism is that all of the industrial polluting facilities are directly in the space where all the Black and brown folks live. So they experience these increased effects of a rising temperature because of the pollution in their environment. And just a little background, Chester is home to the largest trash incinerator in the entire nation. And they have sewage treatment plants that receives the entire county sewage. There are just different waste processing facilities, and there's oil refineries and different industrial polluting facilities. Every neighborhood I ever lived in had an oil refinery right in my backyard. That's always what I was looking at when I was a kid. And so in the midst of all that, there's going to be an increase in health consequences because of that environment, right? And prolonged exposure to that pollution causes asthma and lung cancer and stroke and heart disease. And that's something that is happening also alongside lead poisoning, also because of the environment. And so there's all these different socioeconomic factors that we have to talk about in relation to climate change, because as the temperature is increasing, the pollution traps the heat, and so those cases of asthma and cancer, etc., those spike when the climate is rising. I've seen more people become sick and more people have asthma, and little kids have asthma. And I grew up with asthma and all my friends had asthma, but now babies are getting asthma, and they're on nebulizers from the time they're 6 months old. When I grew up, I could play outside on the street every day with my friends, rain, shine, hot, cold, and we all still were sick. We all still were coughing, etc. But my sister and her friends, they can't go outside in the summertime at all until after the sun starts to go down, because the humidity and the thickness of the air is so triggering that these young kids can't go outside and play. And so that's been super heartbreaking to watch. And then I have to grapple with in real time that the life expectancy of my family's neighborhood is significantly less than the neighborhoods that are outside of it and a bit further away. And so that's almost it's too real to even think about, but it's proof that some lives really do matter less. So that's a huge impact on our psyche and our bodies to think about those kinds of things every single day. I'm in my 30s now, and I know that it's something that other 20-somethings and 30-somethings think about, but I have not been sure if it's a good idea to start a family or not, because I don't know what the world is going to look like. You know, these are just things I don't think that any of us should be plagued with thinking about, but we have to think, like, make these really hard decisions right now. I also worry about, like, the community at large, because I know that it's not just my neighborhood, it's not just Chester. There are cases all over the country where environmental racism is happening and been happening for decades, and those people are so severely impacted, and they're not experiencing climate change in the future. They're experiencing the impacts of climate change yesterday and the yesterday before that, you know, and it's like this is on their doorsteps every single day, all the time, right now. And I don't know if enough people understand that climate change is already here. It's already in this particular moment. And so just always wishing that the world would respond to this moment for the crisis that it is. There's no other time than right now to be resisting oppressive systems. And all these words that I use are like, they feel really big, they feel really scary, but they're real life problems that people of color are facing all over the world, that poor people are facing all over the world. And the only way these problems are going to get solved is if we work together, and if we have a reckoning within ourselves that these issues really are happening. We don't have time for denial and battling it out over the words that we use. We just need action, like, now. And I would love to spend a lot more time just dreaming up, you know, a healthier and just future for me and for you, and for our beautiful planet that is very much taken advantage of.